it's Nicky P coming at you with another video. This time I'm going to do a quick and dirty tutorial on how to send your stems to somebody with Google Drive. Now this is super easy. I've just got my desktop here running, and first I'm going to go into Ableton Live. This is assuming you're using Ableton Live for the song you want to export. Here I just have a really basic song that I'm working on, just a random project that I pulled up to show for this demonstration. So everything's working, it's all recording correctly in Ableton Live. So now the first thing you want to do is make sure that you have all your tracks on, none of them are muted, everything's looking right. I usually recommend playing through the song one complete time from start to finish, just in this preview, to make sure that everything's working right, no plugins are crashing, nothing like that. So once you do that, once you make sure everything's working right, what you have to do after that is click on File up here, then underneath Export Audio/Video. Now once this tab opens up, you're going to click this drop down menu and select all individual tracks. This is going to make it so that every single track is going to be exported individually, which is basically just going to export individual stems. So here I have, here I have the kick drum right here, I have hi-hats, I have pad, I have all these instruments, and it also lets you select tracks individually in case you just want to do one. So do all individual tracks. Now this is important. Make sure it always starts at 1-1-1. This is basically measure 1, beat 1, sub beat 1, and then at the end of your song basically, which just automatically detect it as measure 96. Now you can do this if you want to. I don't think it's mandatory, but if you want to have a little bit room at the end, just extend it by a couple measures. I usually like to do that because even though the music notes end at measure 96, the audio doesn't end. There's usually like some trailing off with reverb or any other effects that you have after that. So to give myself just a bit of a grace period after the song ends so that the audio doesn't just cut out immediately after, I extend this by a few measures. So here we go into rendering options. Just use the settings I have here. For include, return, and master effects, those are basically these effects right here. If you're not using a lot of effects, you don't have to worry about it, but I usually keep this on. It's basically gives you an extra track for each of these, which is never a bad thing to have more audio tracks, unless you're really low on storage, which I hope you aren't. Render as loop off, mono off, normalize off, analysis file off. The sample rate is really important. So right now I have it selected as 96,000 hertz, which is basically what I have my audio interface set at as most of the time, and that's what this project is set at. So what your computer will look like is this little speaker icon is going to likely be over 48,000 hertz, because I'm fairly sure that's what you're rendering your sample rate is at right now. Unless it's at 96,000 hertz like mine, then it'll be set at like mine, but don't worry too much about it. I would usually just click on whatever option has that little speaker, because that makes it so that there isn't any like sample rate conversion going on, which can degrade the audio quality. So always select the option that has the speaker icon next to it. So right now I have the 96,000 because that's the one with the speaker icon, because that basically just renders it at the project's sample rate, which makes sure, like I said, that there's no downsampling, upsampling. It's just the pure audio file as it's being played. Encode PCM on this basically enables and disables the like high quality lossless audio. If you're doing just MP3s, then you would have this disabled, but since we're doing a WAV file to give the best audio quality possible, we're going to keep this on. File type is .wav. All these other options are other lossless audio formats, but they are still compressed even though they are lossless. So I just use the WAV option because that's the highest possible audio quality without compression, just the raw audio, which is the best for something like this. The bit depth, I usually keep that at 24. 16 isn't really that good, but anything above 24 you can't really tell the difference. It's mostly just like insurance that it's not going to sound worse, but 24 is usually the best option. I usually just leave this as is. Encode MP3, that's only if you want to export an MP3 file as well. Create video, I always leave that off. Video encoder. So once all of this is set up as is, which is pretty good like it is right now, you're usually just good to click export. Just make sure you know where to save the file. So right here, after you press export, it's going to pop up a menu where it tells you where it shows you where the audio files are going to be saved. For this situation, I highly recommend going to a file like your documents folder and clicking on new. So just right click, new, and then do a folder. And just make a new folder, call it anything. Since this project is called Feds, I'm just going to name it that, like the project name, so there's no confusion. This is going to be really important later, so do be sure to make a new folder wherever you want it to be and use that folder for the audio files. So we do that, click save, and it's going to start rendering the audio. One thing to keep in mind about this exporting process is this bar right here, it can be a little misleading. At the bottom you see it says 78, 79, 80%. That's actually not the progress of the entire exporting for all the tracks. That's just the percentage of the current track. The percentage tracks each individual track file that's being exported, whereas this bar right here tracks the entire process of exporting all of the files. So you should really be going by this bar here to get an indication on how the exporting process is going. So you'll just want to wait for that to complete, and it will probably take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. So I'll get back with you once this is done exporting. Okay. Now that we're back in the now and have waited for what seems like an eternity for this stuff to finish, we have our folder with all of the tracks. They are labeled in order of the way they're arranged in the playlist view, so they're super easy to find, and they're labeled with the name of the project as well. So now that we have these files, and you can obviously test them to make sure that they're right and good and all that. And then it just plays like normal, and it's just the one track with all the effects applied and everything. So that's exactly what you want for stems. Every single track isolated with all the effects and stuff. Now, if you have a lot of effects and you want to be able to customize them for the person you send them to, what I would recommend doing is repeating this entire process of exporting all the tracks, but make it a separate folder. So make a folder, I'm going to call this one Fez Dry, and you'll understand why it's called that in a second. What you're going to want to do is basically one by one disable every single effect in each instrument. Now you might be asking, why would I want to do that? It's gonna sound like crap. Well, the reason why you do this is because if you have all the effects already on each instrument when you export it, then the person who's working on it cannot change those effects. They're basically locked in and committed to audio. So by having both the dry and the wet, basically with and without the audio effects enabled in audio, that allows the person who's working on it to add their own effects, maybe change some things, recreate effects. Basically just gives them more customization. So now that we have the dry files, the dry stems, now that we have the wet stems, we didn't disable any effects. The effects are enabled when we exported all the stems. We have that folder of stems, and that's just the regular. But we might as well just rename it to wet so that we can easily tell difference. So we have fez wet and fez dry. To get the dry stems, like I mentioned before, just disable all the effects and do the same exact thing we did before. All individual tracks, don't change any of the settings, it should all be good from last time, and then just click export. Now, make sure that you select the right folder. Since we already exported the wet ones, we'll want to do the dry ones, and then again export to that folder. Since the next step of the process is going to be identical for both wet and dry stems, I'm not going to be doing both of those moving forward. That would just be redundant. So now that we're done with that, we no longer need Ableton. So we can just X out of that. And once we have all of our files exported and everything, we can go. This is where it might get a bit tricky. So basically what we want to do, our goal here is get all the stems onto Google Drive and send them to somebody. So the way we're going to do that is by using zip files. Basically, find the folders that you have for the stuff. I am going to put this on the desktop to better demonstrate how this works. So we have our folder here, obviously. What we're going to do is right now, it's just one folder with a bunch of files in it. If we uploaded this to Google Drive right now, it would be really messy because it would just be a folder with all the individual files. You would have to upload one at a time. We're going to bypass all of that. What we're going to do is right click on this folder and click compress to, and then click zip file. What that's going to do is basically create a little package for all of our files. It's going to consolidate every single file in the folder into one nice clean file for us to use and upload. So it's just super easy. It's like a file. It's like a folder that gets treated like a file, basically. It's like a little box we put all of our full files in, and then we zip it up, and it's ready to go wherever we want. We can just send it like a single file, which is really nice because that means we don't have to do nearly as much on the Google Drive end. So, like I said before, just right click, compress to zip file, and that'll get you started. It'll load, it'll take a minute, but not nearly as long as the original exporting process. And once we have that, it's right here, the wet folder. And then look, you just click it, and there's your folder with all the track files, with all the stems. Like I said before, you'll want to repeat this with the dry stems as well. But once we have this zip file, all we have to do is go to Google Drive and upload it. So you might be asking, what the hell is Google Drive and how do I get there? I hope you do know how to get there because it's kind of important. So an easy way to get to Google Drive is if you have a Gmail account, you have a Google Drive. Go to Gmail, click this little waffle icon up here, and click on Google Drive, and that will open up Google Drive in a new tab, which is pretty nice. Now once you're in Google Drive, literally all you have to do is click New, File Upload, and we're going to find our zip file that we made, and double click that, and it's going to upload the zip file basically, and it's going to upload it to your drive so you or anybody can download it from the cloud basically. This is really helpful for transferring things between computers, for sending something to someone else. It's basically like a virtual USB drive, if you know what that is. Very helpful. So that'll take a minute, but once that's done, all you have to do to send it to somebody else is find the file. It's right here. Right click on it. Click on share. Now this is where it might get a little complicated, but still super easy. Once this share menu opens, it's gonna ask you to share with certain people. But what I like to do, which makes it a heck of a lot easier, is on this general access bar where it says restricted, click that drop down menu and click anyone with the link. Once you do that, it's going to create a single link that anybody with the link can access. So anybody with the link can click on this link, and it will take them to a page where they can download this specific file. This is how you send stuff to people with Google Drive. Just copy this link, and you can just test it yourself by going into a new tab and pasting it. And wow, look at that. That's so crazy. It takes you to the file, and it lets you download it, which is awesome. That is exactly how you upload and share things to Google Drive. Something important to keep in mind is obviously you'd repeat this with the dry stems if you do that as well. As long as you follow these steps that I've laid out for you, it should go perfectly. It's very simple. You export via Ableton, put it all in a folder, make it a zip file, and then upload it to Google Drive and share that link with somebody. Super straightforward, and I hope that I explained it in such a way to not make it feel completely overwhelming and impossible. That being said, I hope your exporting process goes okay. Yeah, that's all I have. Goodbye.